On a week in jail. Morning, folks. Morning, Stuart, Margaret, Duncan, John, Lorraine. Christ, that's quite fast. Right, that's 100 doggies on board. That was really quick this morning. So let's get this broadcast underway. It's Indytruck Davy out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it's overcast at the moment, but it's supposed to clear up, be mostly sunny, and it's 17 degrees. Okay, so that's your weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. You want to know what the weather's like where you are? Look out your own bloody window, alright? So let's get this broadcast underway. Okay, news review for the 22nd of the 6th, 2022, or yesterday. Right, Wednesday started with two main themes in the rags. Rail strikes and the return of the triple lock on pensions in September. Now on the train strikes, the propaganda machine has gone all out to demonise the strikers. RMT General Secretary was having none of that. He appeared in the TV channels and put all the hostile reporters in their place. Alright, now the news hack Susanna Reid, I think it's BBC she worked for, even tried to suggest strikers could get violent if agency workers were hired. She asked Mr Lynch what the picketers would do if agency workers tried to cross the picket line. Mr Lynch said they would picket them and ask them not to go to work. Miss Reid pressed the point again. You know, it was absolutely nuts. You know, what he's going to do, what you going to do. And eventually, Mr Lynch realised she was floundering, so he turned to Ona and asked her what it was she was suggesting. So Miss Reid went, I'm old enough to remember the strikes in the 1980s, the miners' strikes. And Mr Lynch stood back for the camera, and there's three guys standing behind them on the picket line. He says, does this look like the miners' strike? You know, all we're going to do is ask people not to cross the picket line. Jeez, it was an absolute car crash for Susanna Reid, the reporter. But he didn't just do it to her. He toured the studios, you know, and he even went on about the amount of billionaires there are going up, how the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, how it's only the poor that's suffering from inflation. He then goes on to say, and by the way, while we're trying to get a decent wage so that we can feed our families, the cabinet's pissing about, wanting to lift the cap on bankers' pay to show that there is a Brexit benefit to foreign companies moving to London. You know, absolutely. The boy was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He strung them all up. You know, and just to slap all the hatred in the press. And I mean, this is a press that's trying to influence public opinion. Samantha Comrades released a poll yesterday while the press are all going after the rail strikers, and it said that 58% of the population were in favour of the strikes. Right, now let's move on. As to the return of the triple lock in pensions in September, that's Bojo's unpopular government's attempt to distract from the Brexit disaster. It won't help pensioners or those in benefits. Let's say pensions go up by 11%. That would increase the basic state pension from £122 a week to £135 a week. Not exactly going to help with electricity prices. Anyway, you know, yesterday it's also announced that rather than the October rise being 43%, it's going to be 51%. And that means that in 12 months, come October, electricity prices will have risen a whopping 132%. And they think 13 quid a week is going to help a pensioner. Wow. But, you know, the reason they're making announcements like that and things like that is there's a couple of by-elections that are important to Bojo. And, of course, the grey vote's a strong vote. They get out and vote. And in England, the grey vote is the Tory core base. You know, we'll get a wee bit more of that as we go on, alright? So that was the rags yesterday. Moving on. And Wednesday, and the Resolution Foundation and the London School of Economics released a report into the effects of Brexit on the UK economy. And it's no good, kids. Right? Brexit, Brexit will stifle wage growth across the UK, with the first affected areas being the northeast of England. You know, there's a bit of poetic justice in that, but we'll get to that. The ex-Red Wall Street straight across the north, alright, who voted for Brexit. The only other parts of the UK to remain productive will be London, Northern Ireland, if they don't mess about with the protocols, and then Scotland. But go to remember, we've got the oil and gas. You know, the north of England, the Midlands, and of England and Wales to become unproductive. But as I said, there is a bit of poetic justice in that, because they spanners voted for this. Alright, now the report also says Brexit has cost each household by 870 quid a year, and that figure will rise as Brexit is nowhere near completion. Remember folks, Brexit has been introduced in increments. There's a couple of big mere dates happening this year which is going to see prices rocket, especially in the food sector, when full checks come on to food goods coming through in November. And it's also going to disrupt the supply chain, because we've got a shortage of butchers. So we're actually sending the meat out of Europe to get processed. And then we've got to import it back to go on the shelves. And that's double the checks, so it's double the cost. And that's all going to pile on. So expect food inflation to rise again. Okay. They also tell us that our spending power has been depleted by £470 because of the crash of the pound since Brexit. Alright. Now, it's costing more to import goods, driving up prices and inflation, further adding to costs. The report also says Brexit will lead to a race to the bottom, with workers' rights dissolving and wages decreasing over the next decade. The UK is now a low-skilled, low-wage economy. So much for Bojo's boasting of his the dispatch box that he was building a high-wage, high-skilled economy, because he isn't doing any such thing. Here we're talking about strikes, and he's talking about putting poor people in who are untrained to run the rail network. You never heard anything so fucking stupid. Right, moving on. Wednesday, and the National Records of Scotland updates the COVID figures. And it appears in Scotland COVID cases have risen by 30% in a week. Right, and this week there was 15,541 cases recorded, and that's up from the previous week where it was 11,226. Alright. Professor Cowell of Edinburgh University says it's a new variant of Omicron BA2. The new virus is BA2.12.1. Who the hell names these things? Right, anyway, the virus appears to be spreading faster in Scotland than elsewhere in the UK, but that could be due to environmental conditions. It's a lot warmer in other parts of the UK than what it is here. Alright, anyway, moving on. Wednesday, and Lord Darling breaks cover to write a piece in the Telegraph, or the Torygraph, to tell the readers in Little England, because let's face it, nobody up here reads a bloody Torygraph, that the First Minister doesn't want another referendum, and that she'd lose it. I think Lord Darnley, the class and country traitor, is crapping himself. You know, there's an awful lot of shilly noises coming for unionists. You know, also Wednesday, raving lunatic Alex Massey, the unionist clown, Scotland, pens a piece saying that Scotland's the illegal route to independence. In other words, we're no a country and we're not a voluntary union. You know, but he takes that idea for Adam Tomlinkins, the ex-Tory MSP, Professor Tomlinkins. He says that Scotland hasn't got a legal route to independence, and that Westminster should assert that Scotland's a colony and no a nation and a union. Because you can see the whole UK get up in flames if they did that, wouldn't you? Anyway, what's even more interesting about it, Professor Tomlinkins then says we should have the debate, and then goes on to suggest that, and Alex Massey, the lunatic, he goes on to suggest that if Nicola Sturgeon can get 2 million votes in the referendum, then maybe they'll talk to her. Maybe Tomlinkins and what's supposed to be a journalist will talk to her, will they? Wow, these people have no concept, have they? They've never heard of the claim of right. They don't know it's enshrined in Scots law. Westminster can say fuck all when we decide we're going to have a referendum, pardon Davy's French. But Davy understands a wee bit about these things. The claim of right was went into Scots law, and I think it was 1689. Might be wrong, it might be 69. Can't mind off the top of my head. It was then reaffirmed in the law by Robin Cook, using the Scottish Grand Committee in Westminster, where Cook threatened to take his MPs over the Burning Bridge to independence. They sat as the Grand Committee so they could reaffirm the claim of right. And then in 2018, claim of right goes through Westminster unopposed. All this pish about constitutional wrangles and all that, lot of crap. I've already done a programme on it. Hey, Constitution, as I've said many times, is a contract between the government and its people. That's a codified constitution. The UK doesn't have one. Scots contract law. Can't you put the contract on the table? It doesn't fucking exist. That's what a constitution is. It's a contract. So this idea that you can reserve something that doesn't bloody exist. Wow. Right, moving on. Wednesday, and a report out from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation says that the children and Save the Children say that the Scottish child payment should increase again next year, as Scots government likely to narrowly miss targets on reducing child poverty. They did say the Scottish government are trying real hard, but the main problem's coming from down that bloody road. We've got galloping inflation, more or less wiping out any pennies that the Scottish government have got available to put into poor people's pockets. You know, so, and there's going to be another problem and all. Can he raise it next year? Why? Because the Scottish government's budget will be reduced by 2%. Add in the problems of inflation, and the money's just not gone far enough. Right, moving on. Wednesday lunchtime rolls around and PMQs is on. Bojo the Clown is back in the driving seat. And first up to have a go is Sir Comrade Starmer of the left cheek of the establishment arse. Right, anyway, the Red Tory leader Sir Comrade Starmer won't get behind striking rail workers. Starmer went on, firstly, the Wakefield by-election. Starmer says that the Tory candidate didn't have the confidence even of its own party. Bojo said the voters in Wakefield and Tiverton will vote for the Tories, and he then attacked Starmer for no condemning the rail strikes. Alright, mental. Starmer went on trains next, and he said Grant Sharp had been at his spreadsheet tracking Bojo's unpopularity rather than dealing with the rail strikes. Bojo said the Tories love the trains, that the Tories had invested 96 billion on the trains, and he mentioned Crossrail. 2 years late and 4 billion quid their budget. Not exactly a great mention, was it? Anyway, he then said they will build the Northern Powerhouse railways. Funny that report out from London School of Economics says the Northern Powerhouse is going to be on the dole. They'll not be getting on trains. Right, anyway, so it was just a lot of bollocks. But Bojo was bombastic back himself. You know, so Starmer asked Bojo about many meetings his Transport Secretary had held with the rail operators and unions. And he told Bojo to get on with the day job and get the trains running, didn't he? Anyway, Bojo said they'd given the railways 16 billion in pandemic support, and it's up to the rail operators to negotiate with the striking workforce. Next up, Starmer went on the attempt to change the law to increase bankers' bonuses. Starmer asked Bojo why the Treasury are telling people that they need to control wage demands. Anything less than 10% has been owed is going to be a pay cut. But the Treasury's telling people, you take a wage cut. Bojo's chief minister is trying to change the law to increase bankers' bonuses. Bojo played the old untrue classics. Public sector pay rises, £1,000 more for those in universal credit. If only that was true, it's only for the 40% that are in work. The rest of them don't get. The 60% don't get. Anyway, you know, he said he was also given £1,200 to 8 million households. So, you know, And they said they could do that because of the UK government's fiscal firepower, because of their policies. The policies to shrink the economy, shrink the public services, make the place go tits up. I don't see anything in it. Anyway, Starmer tells them that, didn't he? What are you talking about? You've got a low growth and low wage economy. Sort the trains out. Absolutely mental. Anyway, Bojo. Starmer says low wage, low growth economy. Starmer went on the armed forces next. And he said soldiers had to take a pay cut. Right. Bojo lied again. Claiming he was claiming that they invested more money in the military, cutting trains. But his main aims with trains was to cut transport costs. Wow, he says transport costs is a big slice of our weekly income that we have to put out. Wow, he's right, isn't he? The dearest trains in Europe, the dearest fuel in Europe, the dearest energy in Europe, and he says he's trying to cut transport costs. Wow, mental. Absolutely mental. Anyway, next up was Ian Blackford, and he went on the report from the Resolution Foundation and the London School of Economics. Right, and he states that the UK economy is done. It's been hijacked by the venture capitalists. It's not what he said, but it was what he meant, you know. So anyway, Bojo said that Blackford also said this would be a good time for a trade war with EU. Bojo said no trade war with between the UK and the EU, and that the UK had the highest inward investment ever. Now at this point, Davy was on his back on the flare rolling about feckin' laughing. And I mean it. The highest inward investment ever. You know, money and investment is fleeing the UK at a rapid rate of knots. And when they get into a trade war with the EU, which they are going to do, when the sanctions go on, vehicle parts and things like that, you're going to see devastation right across the north of England. Growth, my arse. You know, and inward investment, my bahookie. London is hemorrhaging money at a rapid rate of knots. I mean, I genuinely now think that the Tories are telling themselves so many bloody lies that they believe it. I mean, even a truck driver can see the economic illiteracy of these buggers. Wow! Man, I don't know what's up with the people in England. Biggest inward investment ever. Woof! Well, just in the negative quarter, the contraction's on. It's running faster than the bloody expansion after COVID. These spanners are living in cloud cuckoo land. Millions of people using food banks. Grannies riding buses to stay warm. What the fuck? Well, do you know what gets me? That bugger gets to get into that parliament every week and lie with impunity. Surely the English people can now see with their own eyes what's true as they troop off to the bloody food bank. Wow. Anyway, moving on. Wednesday, after PMQs, Deputy Prime Minister, the idiot Rab, presents the new British Bill of Rights to the Commons. Rab says the UK must be able to make its own decisions on human rights. One speaker after another from the opposition parties condemned the bill. The Shadow Justice Minister, Labour's Ellie Reeves, says that the bill was a con and it removed the state's responsibility to protect its citizens. And it will deprive people of justice and see the criminal cabal become a law unto its own. Ministers being able to overturn court rulings. The rights to a family life stripped away. The bill is dangerous, and Davy says it's a wee bit more than dangerous when in conjunction with the other bits of legislation that have been put before that House. Alright, the Covert Human Sources Bill, Police Crimes Court Sentencing Bill, the Borders and Immigration Bill, and this, the UK is quickly slipping into a totalitarian despot of a state. Alright, so Davy, so let's go into a scenario here where we can link these bills together, alright? So Davy's flagged up as a dissident, and the Covert Human Sources Bill in the UK allows the UK government to hire my family to spy on me for the state. Alright, let's say I then went, a Scottish dissident wander into England to a public protest and I get myself arrested for being too noisy. That's where the Police Crime and Sentences Bill comes in. They get to break up a protest if it's bothering anybody. Basically outlawing public protest. Alright, so Davy gets arrested. Right, I get convicted under the new Borders and Immigration Bill. The Home Secretary can revoke my citizenship as I can qualify for Irish citizenship. Alright, so I get deported to Rwanda while I apply for Irish citizenship. Hey, banished from my home forever, no longer a problem. Now that sounds like a fanciful scenario, doesn't it? But all these bills linked together means that is possible now in our totalitarian state. And when you think about little England, the government no longer has responsibility for their health care. That came in 2012. The government down there is now making themselves no longer responsible for the welfare of their citizens. That also gives them the ability to attack their citizens in any way they want. And that scenario I've just read out is only one of them. Okie dokie. Right, let's move on. Alright, moving on Wednesday, because time's battering on. Wednesday, and the law to allow employers to hire agencies staff during industrial action is a step closer. More deregulation of the labour markets. This has got nothing to do with train strikes, folks. I'm telling you, this is the private sector. This is the benefit. This has got nothing to do with public sector. Right, moving on Wednesday in the UK, Hartless and a part-time Chancellor of the Exchequer defends the inflation pace, keeping triple lock on pensions when the public sector workers are taking hits. Economist Jim O'Neill said the constant protection of pensioners was ridiculous. Davy says, no, it's no. Pensioners vote. Pensioners vote Tories. So, Tories will look after pensioners. Right, moving on. Wednesday, and Washington tells Westminster unilaterally changing the NI protocols is not conducive with the US signing a free trade deal with the UK. This is the biggest signal yet that if the Westminster criminal cabal do break international law by unilaterally changing the NI protocols, that the UK will suffer sanctions from the US as well as a trade war with the EU. These idiots down that road are absolute gamblers and chancers, and they really don't give a shite. Right, moving on Wednesday, and it appears that the Tories who closed the mines want to reopen the pits. It comes as Tory MP asked Bojo the Clown why we're importing coal for the steel industry when the UK has its own resources. Now what the Tory MP was pointing out was that actually we're outsourcing carbon rather than cutting down on it. Anyway, the Tory says, what's the point? We'll open right, we should as well just use marine resources. Anyway, it appears that Bojo's behind it. So all the commitments at COP26 are out the bloody windy. They're another international treaty up in the air. Right, Wednesday, and it's announced that the second reading of the bill to unilaterally change the NI protocols will happen next week. The bill will be called on Monday, and that's really going to rattle the EU even more. So there's a bit more tub thumping going on, alright? And of course, right, there's 2 by-elections today, so guess where Bojo is? As far away as bloody possible. He's in Rwanda for a meeting of the Commonwealth heads of state, and of course, he's there in the middle of trouble at home or the immigration, or the deportation of immigrants or asylum seekers to Rwanda. Okay, right, let's move on to this morning because I need to get shifty on. Otherwise the dragon's going to hang me. I've only got a couple of minutes. Moving on to this morning, what the papers have to say. Alright, here we go. Take a breath. Right, the Metro. Nationwide polio alert. Polio has showed up in London. That's what happens, you put shite in your own water. Alright, the eye has polio found in Britain for the first time in 40 years. The Scottish Daily Mail has polio is back in UK after 40 years. The Scotsman has SNP fails to spend 41 million for crisis and cost of living. They're saying the money's not getting out fast enough. The Daily Telegraph has second homeowners face losing 400 energy rebate. That's because the Scottish Government's not keen on giving them money to power 2 homes. So they're going to claw it back. And polio warning as virus spreads in Britain for the first time in 40 years. The loony rag the Express has, it's only fair. Rishi defends 1,000 boost to pensioners. Of course it does. Pensioners vote and they vote Tory. The Times has unions pile pressure on bosses after 7% pay deal. Rise for City Rail staff as one off, says employers. So they're offering 7%. The Herald goes on. Vulnerable people treated like lepers after COVID rules ends. Campaigners say those at high risk suffer abuse for voicing fears over infection rates. Oh, no, they don't. I've never seen any abuse. Have you seen abuse? I think they're making this piss up. The National has My Heart Beats for Scotland. And on the anniversary, Brexit apparently, Europe showing support for Scots who've been ripped out of Europe against their will. The Record goes in the story, diesel prices made me homeless, soaring fuel costs forced dad of 3 to sell his house and move into a caravan. And what's the nutty Star got for us today? The Star has, and you thought you had a bad week. Psychotic seagulls holding me hostage. That is funny. Right, that's what I've got for you folks. I hope you found it entertaining, I hope you found it informative, especially these different acts that are coming through that parliament which are dangerous to us. Because we would be seen as dissidents, we'd be seen as a risk to the UK economy and the UK state, alright, as independent supporters. Right, remember, there's the referendum's coming, so eyes on the prize, learn how you go and he's got out there and win hearts and minds. Okay, support the independent media. David and I will be going live at 4 o'clock this afternoon for the Two Davy show on YouTube. We'll put the links up and the groups and in on our Facebook pages. So support independent broadcasters. And if they've got a crowdfunder going and you've got a few shekels to stick in the pot, then please do the day hard work. Alright, health messaging, COVID's on its way up, cover up, alright, clean your hands and surfaces regularly. If you've got the sniffles, think about social distancing, and if you're still testing, send your results in so that we can keep track of this stuff. You lot have a great day, we'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. Bye bye now.